Welcome back to our Inside Ag Spring Special. As Idahoans, we're used to hearing the phrase famous Idaho potatoes. But right now, the spuds aren't flying off the shelves like they used to. We went to the field to find out why fewer acres are being planted. For generations. How long have you been farming for?
Well, my whole life. I've been farming my whole life.
The Blanksmas have worked in this southern Idaho soil.
My family's been in this area for the last 38, 40 years.
Growing beans, alfalfa, wheat, and of course, potatoes.
These have been out of the ground for about 5 days, 5 to 7 days.
But his generation is now facing growing pains.
Potatoes this year we're down in acres along with everybody else about 5%. So we're right around the 520 acres of potatoes this year.
That's about a 30% drop compared to 3 years ago. And it's not just this farm. Across Idaho, potato acres are shrinking.
Demand. It's strictly a demand issue. Domestic demand is down. Our export demand is also slightly down.
The forecast is that Idaho potato acres will go from 315,000 last year to 300,000 this year.
70% of America's potatoes stay in America. Sean Ellis with the Idaho Farm Bureau Federation says this will be the smallest acreage since 1952.
Most of Idaho potatoes are grown for the frozen processing industry. The big three processors this year cut back on their potato contracts, so they go out before planting and they sign contracts with potato growers to grow a certain amount of potatoes. Well, those contracts were cut back in some cases pretty significantly this year, and some growers were zeroed out altogether.
With inflation, Blanksma says fewer people are eating out.
And so it's kind of made your frozen French fries or your tater tot, seems that they've kind of become a luxury item, which isn't good for our industry.
His farm is adjusting by planting more edible bean seed, but finding another crop likely won't be a big moneymaker.
Well, unfortunately, right now, there isn't a good market in hardly any crop that's raised in Idaho. Wheat, all the commodities, wheat and corn, are down. The edible bean seed and commercial beans have taken a hit. Mint has taken a hit. You name it, crop prices are down.
While these russet Burbank potatoes can store up to a year.
So they've been in here since September. These are going to go to the frozen market and one day become French fries or tater tots or hash browns or whatever they want to make with them.
Predicting how much to plant each year is difficult.
The problem with potatoes is they're perishable. I can't keep them forever. Corn and wheat, beans, we can keep those for a long time. We hope that we can do a right size planting every year to meet the demand. We don't want too little and we don't want too much. It just hurts our business. If we can flatten it and try to be as stable as we can with our market, it will lead to long-term success.
The official USDA forecast for how many acres of potatoes are planted doesn't come out until June 30th, and that's when we're going to know how many fields were planted. But experts anticipate it will mirror what they are seeing. The bottom line is that while farmers will notice the change, the consumer likely won't.
Ag workers as a whole are incredibly important. I mean, we can't do what we do.
Hawaii produce has long been a foundational part of Idaho's agricultural industry. Like many other farms, it faces significant challenges, including labor shortages and the reliance on H-2A workers. Now, the farm is using social media to shed light on these issues and highlight the essential role farm workers play in feeding the nation. Inside Ag contributor Brenda Rodriguez shares their story.
Nestled in the heart of Parma,
We grow 9, 10, sometimes 11 different crops.
Hawaii produce has been a cornerstone of American agriculture for 4 generations.
We grow asparagus, we grow beans, corn, mint, onions, watermelon, wheat, sugar beets.
They've also grown a huge following on social media.
I can certainly get a lot of beautiful views or shots from the farm that people would appreciate, but that's not the same as showing them the work.
But for Shay, it's about going beyond those visuals.
There's lots of struggles.
And shedding light on tough issues farmers face, like this one.
I get the question all the time, why don't I hire Americans? Why do we bring H-2A workers to work on our farm here in Idaho and in Oregon?
Labor has always been a challenge, especially, for the last 10 or 15 years, it's been incredibly hard to get the labor that's needed to get the work done.
The legacy of this farm and its role in feeding America depends on a workforce.
It's hard work. It's just challenging. It's not what an American, like the traditional American who's been here for a generation or two, wants to do. And so because that's the situation, people simply don't show.
As a result, many farmers depend on the H-2A visa program, which allows U.S. employers to bring in non-immigrant foreign workers to fill temporary or seasonal agricultural jobs.
The hard thing about an H-2A worker is the federal government gets to decide how many workers you get and when they show up.
But that system doesn't always work out smoothly.
Last week, our H-2A workers were supposed to be coming. It's time to plant. And there were some snafus at the border. These guys have been delayed by 7 days. That might be delayed by 2 weeks.
And not planting on time affects everyone.
Really affects our ability to produce the crops and be profitable as a business.
That's where immigrant workers come in, like Angel. And Eliana.
We're here like trying to provide food on the table. We're trying to provide food for everyone.
Originally from a different country.
Uno como migrante, pues uno viene aquí a trabajar para su familia, para pues echarle ganas para mantener a la familia en México y aquí también.
And many of them put in 10 to 12-hour workdays 6 days a week, all while pursuing their own personal ambitions.
I started going to school to do my GED. I did it like in 6 months. And then I started going to college to do a few classes.
And many of them feeling like they have to fight misconceptions and political backlash.
I think they need to be empathized with us as farm workers. We're not doing like anything wrong. We're just here working. Like you can see, everyone is hard working.
It's a sentiment their boss agrees with.
Immigrants don't have to be invisible, guys. Immigrants don't have to be invisible. We like to highlight the workers that we have in our packing shed, the workers that we have in our fields.
They're, very educated, very capable people looking for a way to move the needle and change their future.
And one he hopes others understand that farm workers are vital to help feed the nation.
This is changing lives while providing something that we have to have here in the United States. And that really gets missed.
Brenda Rodriguez, Idaho's News Channel 7.
To make sure no American loses out of a job opportunity, Shay says they have to run radio and print ads of that job listing before they're able to hire H-2A workers. But just like you mentioned, it's rare for an American to apply for the positions. All right, after the break, kids are putting down their pencils and paper to get their hands dirty. We're going to show you a local program teaching kids how interconnected humans are with the garden ecosystem. A local program is encouraging kids to get outside and get their hands dirty. Bugs, also known as the Boise Urban Garden School, hosts field trips for schools throughout the year, teaching students the importance of soil health, composting, pollinators, and much more. We got the chance to tag along as Bugs showed a group of middle schoolers the importance of the garden ecosystem.
It's all connected, right? Everything here is connected. Everything on Earth is connected.
We are an environmental and health-based education organization.
Let's look under the other one, see if there's anything under there. Oh, yeah, we got a centipede under here.
We quite often have field trips in the springtime. It's beautiful in the garden. Things are starting to pop.
Gosh, I can smell it.
How many pounds of food do you think we're able to grow here in a typical year?
1,000?
That's a great guess. It's more than 1,000.
We have a pollinator garden. We also have honeybees here that we keep, so they're going to learn all about how integral honeybees and pollinators are to the garden and to our production and food production.
The female bees are known as the worker bees. They're the ones that have stingers and they go out to pollinate, right?
And then another group is going to learn all about composting and decomposers.
You can see that it has largely just completely broken down. It looks like a lot of like leaf matter and stuff. And you know what? This actually isn't even a completely finished compost pile.
So worms are also in the soil. They're kind of making air. So can you guys give me a little
little worm dance.
We're also doing one group that's going to learn a little bit more about regenerative agriculture and soil health, and going to tour the whole entire garden and see how it all goes together.
So see what you can taste in this.
It tastes like carrot. It tastes like a salad with like nothing on it.
I think it's really important for them to get outside, be in the fresh air, get their hands a little bit dirty, and to be able to see where healthy, natural, whole food comes from and how it's grown. And then the plant health translates into our health when we eat it, so how everything is connected.
My favorite part about visiting bugs was trying the plants and learning about decomposers and composting.
I like tasting all the different plants, and I also like learning about the honeybees and how they live.
I love seeing the kids really gravitate towards eating and trying and being curious and inquisitive with the topics that we're presenting.
You can come back any time of the year. You can come back to Bugs and visit the garden and see how it grows.
So cute, those kids. All right, coming up, dedicated kids involved in 4-H and FFA put their summer on hold to raise livestock. And for one family, it's a generational affair. You may not see many cows grazing in Meridian city limits these days, but for nearly a century, Meridian Dairy Days has been more than just a celebration of milk. It's a tribute to the valley's roots. We learned it's also paving the way for the next generation of agricultural leaders. Talk with Hans Bruin, and he remembers when Meridian was dotted with dairy farms.
When I moved here in 1981, I could think of at least 4 dairies within a mile of me. Of course, none of them are left now, unfortunately.
But those roots still run deep. Meridian Dairy Days started 96 years ago when farmers proudly gathered to prove who had the best cows in town.
The creamery opened up in 1929, and that's when Meridian Dairy Days kind of started, with a celebration of dairymen coming together, showing that my cow's better than your cow.
The creamery now is where you'll find City Hall, and the event has evolved. Now 4-H and FFA students like Meridian High senior Aubrey Workman.
I'm a 4th generation dairy farmer.
Show dairy cows at Meridian Dairy Days.
What's going through my head is don't mess up, don't mess up, don't mess up.
And for the Workmans, it's a family tradition.
We usually like circle around in a circle like you would in like a regular show. So, and my mom usually like stands in the middle like the judge. So we try and like compete against each other.
Aubrey is the older sister.
Agriculture is very important, and I just found my passion in agriculture, and without it, I just wouldn't be where I am today.
Her younger sister,
I'm just gonna go over the fence.
Sophia, had a successful showing season last year.
When we first got her, she was kind of crazy, and so at Canyon, I guess she just knew what to do, because when we got in the show ring, she was totally chill. So out waiting to go into the showing, she was like crazy, but then when we got in there, she was really chill. It was kind of crazy.
And is also the reigning 2024 Meridian Dairy Junior Princess. Raising prize cows isn't easy. It's early mornings, careful grooming, and endless patience.
We're up every day at 5:30 to feed the cows. We come out, work the cows, work the animals, and then we come back out, do it again at night. Yeah, it's definitely not as easy as you think it would be. It's a lot of work.
It's really taught me responsibility, because you have to come out here even when it's like hot, and you have to keep working them, and you really can't give up.
Showmanship is the most important.
Sophie, Aubrey, and even their little brother are proof that the dairy legacy will live on in Idaho. And as Meridian Dairy Days comes, Hans says its purpose remains clear: to celebrate agriculture and continue teaching the next generation.
It has a lot to do with your history and your heritage. Even though all that changed, it's still kind of important to know where we came from and what started this valley.
All right, coming up, stand aside broccoli and carrots. Another vegetable is getting the limelight thanks to a local producer. We're going to show why people showed up for the Asparagus Fest. While this veggie may not take up a ton of land in the Gem State, one grower is making sure it leaves a big impression. From the field to your fork and maybe even your ice cream cone. Yeah, we look at the crop that isn't as well known as potatoes, but has its own festival to make sure people do know about it. It's a stock market most of us don't think about. While asparagus used to be a bigger player in Idaho fields, today
it has declined a lot in recent years just due to cost and things having to increase in price. It's hard to compete with other countries with such a labor-intense crop.
Despite the high labor costs, fierce international competition, and shrinking acreages, here on this Idaho farm, asparagus is still thriving.
We are now one of 2 or 3 producers left in Idaho.
At Hawaii Produce, what's kept this crop sprouting? Well, it's a mix of passion and innovation. The innovation comes from this packing line.
The line that's behind me and that you'll see parts of is extremely advanced to what we used to do even 5 years ago. Everything was done by hand, and now we use the same amount of people and run double the shifts, but our technology sorts, sizes, and even bands our bundles of asparagus. So we've had a lot of change in technology and labor.
They've also become more competitive with labor by increasing pay and relying on the H-2A program, which allows workers to come up on a visa to work for a while.
And without that, we would not be able to do asparagus.
Idaho's climate and soil also gives asparagus growers a seasonal edge.
It is an area that allows us to have early crop, which kind of fills in this window between California and Washington, which is our biggest competitors in the U.S., and it allows us to get into a market that Mexico and Peru aren't in either.
To help keep the crop visible and viable, the farm started something new.
I realized that agriculture was not as well understood as I thought it was, and so I wanted to do something to educate, but in a fun way. And we finally decided that we were going to just take the leap and do an event, which is where Asparagus Fest came from.
The festival is complete with asparagus ice cream, bread, pizza, even asparagus tamales. The goal of the festival is to teach people where their food comes from, to shop local, and
I want to spark creativity. There's so many things that you can do with the local commodities that are produced in our area, and we don't always think outside of the box. Asparagus ice cream and asparagus pizza is not something you would think of making, and so be creative. Try to use your local items in new ways.
Coming up, it ushers us from spring into summer, farmers markets. We're going to tell you how a local market is showcasing its vendors. There's a saying that goes, if you want to understand a place, start with its food. And maybe we should start with who it comes from. There's something new, helping showcase the stories behind each booth at the Boise Farmers Market. Each weekend, these tents fill up fast in Boise. And what's under those tents are now growing beyond the market.
We were lucky enough to get a grant from the United States Department of Agriculture. It's called the Farmers Market Promotion Program. And really our aim and our goal is to show the essentiality of farmers markets, as well as just the heart and soul of farmers markets, community, bringing people together, which obviously you can see behind me happening all the time.
The Boise Farmers Market is rolling out a video series, one episode at a time.
Why should you shop at a farmers market?
Telling the stories of the growers.
We get up very early in the morning.
Their practices.
Not only to pick, but to get to the market.
And the people that make this market.
They usually have jumbo
and then more than just a Saturday stop.
The earliest people are here around 6:30 in the morning.
Thing on the egg carton that tells you.
Really, we just want people to sort of dive in, and their little snippets are going to be between about 4 and 5 minutes long, and it just teaches you a little bit more about what to expect, what you can see at the market.
Ask farmer Tim Sommer.
The Boise Farmers Market,
and he agrees,
has helped turn this in for our own farm and for other farms to be a significant source of income. And it wasn't that way early on. Farmers used to go home with a lot of food unsold. But here now we filled this parking lot. We have 5,000 people come on a Saturday. And it's That's incredible. And it turns into a serious opportunity for sales and for making these farms visible.
They have released 3 videos so far and have plans for at least 10 this season.
Are the ones that really care about the land and care about soil health and nutrient-dense foods.
These videos specifically will really let people see exactly what's available at the farmers market, why it's important, and give people that outlet to really, they can come and purchase their goods from the person who brought that from the ground, put all their heart and soul into it, and then that nutrient-dense food that's really local goes right back to them.
Most farmers get roughly 17 cents on the dollar for their crop at the grocery stores. Sommer says farmers markets give small farmers a chance to make money, all while giving people fresher food.
And it comes with better flavors and bigger flavors, and these growers tend to be smaller scale. This isn't giant farm producing commodity items that go into an industrial system. These people grow this to be eaten right now. You can support the system that gives better food in the way we used to do it.
It doesn't have to come from thousands of miles away from a grocery store. It can actually be homegrown right here in the Treasure Valley.
Well, thank you for joining us for this Inside Ag special. If you have any story ideas or know people making a difference in the ag community, please text us at 208-321-5614, or you can email us at insideag@ktvb.com.
Continue with us and watch free now on the KTVB Plus app everywhere you stream.